Welcome to Confessions with Cynthia, where we explore careers, relationships, and lifestyles of Homo sapiens.
Hello, I'm your host Cynthia, and today we're joined by my band members. If you didn't know, I'm in a band called Sin and Grace. I play the bass guitar and do backing vocals. So please welcome my beautiful friends and band members, David and Rakelle. Hey David.
Hi Cynthia, I'm the guitarist in Sin and Grace.
And Rakelle.
Hi, I'm Rakelle and I'm the vocalist.
Thanks so much for joining us, David and Rakelle. So, David, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you started out as a musician.
I've been playing guitar seriously since I was 19, and I basically started out as a musician by conning my way into bands when I wasn't anywhere near good enough, and learning on the job. I ended up doing a whole range of fill-in work for bands, sometimes at very short notice, which was great training in retrospect. I've been in all kinds of bands, none of which you've probably heard of, but I've played everything through pop, funk, rock, country, blues, punk, or industrial punk. I've done musicals, I've done some soundtrack work. I've taught music for almost as long as I've been playing. Again, I conned my way into that. And it's been an on-the-job experience, networking, getting phone calls, getting asked to join things, finding out about things and forming bands around that. That's how I started as a guitarist.
Amazing. Thanks for that, David. And Rakelle, how did you start off as a musician?
Well, I actually started out in the school choir. I just spent a lot of my time throughout my schooling years in actual choirs and soloist work, and then I moved into more performing during uni when I was at AIM. And yeah, I mean, a lot of my performing experience has been through schooling and through actual anything related to Yeah. Sorry, the word's not coming to my mind right now. But just my schooling years basically is what kind of built up a lot of my actual performing history.
Yeah, I'm actually the same. I started similar to you, like in choir as well in primary school. And funny enough, I actually did do piano lessons at AIM, like way back in the day. We could do private lessons in the evenings after school. And I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't a very good student. I'd often not practice enough, and my mom took me away from the piano lessons. So after primary school, I would go into high school studying music with a wonderful teacher named Mr. Blue, and I dabbled in guitar, drums, different instruments, percussion, and back onto keyboard. But it never really stuck until I went back to AIM as an adult, and that's where I met both Rakelle and David there. And I kind of wanted to do something a bit more performative with the instruments, and my boyfriend at the time, now husband, Kieran, played guitar, and I was like, why don't I do a complementary instrument like the bass guitar? And it worked out really well. So during that time, I studied bass for about a year or so, but then I left it. And then I have a crazy story that I'll mention later. My bass got stolen, found it back again a few years later. And then I definitely went back to David and was like, hey, I got this insane idea during the pandemic. Do you want to start a band? And then this is how Sin and Grace was formed. So a bit more about that. But yeah, definitely similar starts, and also doing a bit of networking like David had said earlier. So was this something that you wanted to do when you were a child, David?
Yeah. I can remember drawing pictures of rock bands and singing along to the radio and the tennis racket in front of the mirror, doing the whole Pete Townsend power chord thing. And I never told anyone, really. My mother was a virtuoso musician. She classically trained at the Con, and probably could have gone a long way with it, but she had one of those teaching scholarships, so she was indentured to the Department of Education for 5 years, and then things had moved on, and my dad's family were also in bands, and my dad's brother, my uncle, was a professional drummer at one of the big RSL clubs in town. He was the house drummer there for 25 years or something. So it was something that I never really wanted to... There was a high standard that I didn't want to disappoint, particularly as I didn't really start playing till well after I thought I'd wanted to do this. I couldn't sing that well. I've improved a bit since, but it was having a plan without any way of putting that plan together till I was 19 and started tentatively on guitar.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But yeah, certainly it was something I wanted to do.
Fabulous. And you're still doing it today?
Yes. Not quite to the level I thought I'd get to, but
still doing it.
It's still doing it.
Yeah, you'll get there, don't worry.
Exactly. And Rakelle, is it the same for you?
Yeah, actually, I started singing when I was about 7 years old. I say I was probably about year 2 when I kind of auditioned to join a choir at school. And then I had the awful experience of just not having the greatest voice to stay on tune. And then that kind of spurred me to kind of push to get better on that.
Amazing.
So then that just built me up, and that became a bit more of it became more of a dream kind of in mid high school. But I definitely always had a love for music and singing. That was the one thing that kind of spurred me on, and I pushed to get better at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Like, no one really starts off like an amazing singer, except if you're a Beyonce or like an Adele. But even then, like, it's all practice.
It's all work.
It's all work. And
It's true with every instrument.
Absolutely. Yeah. As long as you have that love and that initiative to be like, I want to get better at this and to be the best I can possibly be and not compare yourself to anyone else, that's the most important thing. And that was similar to when I was a child. My best friend at the time, she loved music, and she introduced me to music back then. And she was in the choir, and she pushed me to do choir. And at first I was apprehensive, but then slowly and surely I was like, oh no, I really enjoy this. And also, it was in the 2000s, and that was the era of like American Idol and Australian Idol, and that didn't help my kind of ambition and want to perform, in front of all these people and do and make wonderful music, because there's so many Australian singers that have amazing songs in Australia. And I was just like, I want to do that. But obviously, life gets in the way. You grow up a bit. And it wasn't until much later that I was like, you know what, why don't I revisit this with people that I know and trust and have the same kind of goals and understanding? And that's why we're here today, isn't it?
Yeah.
So can you tell us if there was a song, band, or show that made you think, yes, this is what I want to be?
I saw Queen when I was very young, and that was really the thing that I thought, yep. It was still a couple years before I started actually doing anything about it. But seeing that you could have that much fun, yeah, and the other, actually seeing my uncle perform at Canterbury RSL was another thing that made me think this looks like something I would enjoy doing. And again, it was a few years after that I actually started doing anything about it. Mm-hmm. But you've got to be in the right maturity space, ironically, given it's not an industry known for its maturity. And you've got to be emotionally ready to learn. So those two things really ruined my life.
Well, you can thank your uncle and Queen later.
Yeah.
And Queen is a phenomenal band.
Yeah.
It's my sister's absolute favourite band.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Definitely. And Rakelle?
For me, it's a couple of artists. I actually grew up with Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Westlife, Destiny's Child, the Spice Girls. Shakira, I would say, had a bit more of an influence on me, especially because of her background and the influence of more of that Arabic style music mixed in with the pop.
And she's from Colombia too.
Yeah, so she's Colombian and half, I believe, Lebanese.
Half Lebanese, yeah.
Yes, so that definitely had an impact on me, especially her song Whenever Wherever.
Yeah.
That song was constantly on repeat in our household. And so many more artists, especially when I started growing into more of my teenage years, or more Delta Goodrem, Missy Higgins, Pink, Eminem, Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
All of these artists have had a real influence on the kind of music that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And I'm very similar to Rakelle as well. I grew up in a household that played wonderful traditional like Chinese music and also pop music from Hong Kong and from mainland China. And I remember that my mother really loved listening to Teresa Tang, who was a wonderful, beautiful singer and storyteller with beautiful love songs. And that was one aspect of it from my childhood that I remember and hold dear to my heart. And then as I grew older, I found and discovered pop punk, much to my parents' dismay, and then I played non-stop in the household. And I remember having my iPod filled with like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy.
Oh my God, I'm exactly the same.
And like Eminem and Evanescence. And then just me singing it really off tune because it's very hard to sing pop punk songs without screaming for me. So that was definitely something that I grew up with. But yeah, Australian Idol also kind of played a big role in why I wanted to perform live, because I thought it looked like so much fun. And just to see like people, like regular people going out there strutting their stuff and having lots of fun, and even people performing live in concerts or even at school, I was like, wow, I want to be like them. I want to have that confidence to do that. So yeah, luckily I didn't have my parents ruin my life or any family members like David. So, you know, that's that. And did anyone here study music, professionally in school, either in like primary, high school, or, higher education after?
Yes, so I studied after high school at the Australian Institute of Music. I actually started with a diploma of music and then shifted into a Bachelor of Music in Contemporary Performance. So that's pretty much mainly what I did, but my beginnings were I was pretty much self-taught until about mid-high school. So, yeah.
I have lectured in music, but more music history than music theory, although I have done lectures in music theory. I'm a historian by training, with a degree from University of New South Wales. But my music is mostly self-taught. I've had lessons on bass and I've had lessons on mandolin, and everything else is my fault. So,
well, no, I think you're like one of the most relaxed lecturers at AIM, because that's how we all met. And at least you guys, stuck it out longer than I did, because I am an AIM dropout, I gotta say. I didn't stick with it because, I don't know, I was just kind of antsy, even into like my early 20s, and I just couldn't stick with anything. Yeah. Luckily, I had my husband, boyfriend then, to keep me grounded. But I'm really glad that we kept in touch, because I love bass, but as you know, life gets in the way, and my bass got stolen. So I didn't have an instrument to play for a little while, and I kind of lost that motivation. So getting back into it, I kind of got self-taught. David gave me a few lessons here and there to relearn the basics, which was really kind of you to do. I really appreciate it, because it was I really do enjoy this. I just have to allow myself to enjoy it and get back into it. And then I would also like to ask, are you guys currently studying any courses at the moment, doing anything else on the side just to kind of build your knowledge or skills, or are you just kind of looking at articles or listening to new music out there to build your music knowledge at the moment?
No, not really. I didn't actually study any acting, although I wanted to in my high school years. the only experience I could say I had in acting was having the opportunity to perform the song Defying Gravity from musical Wicked. So that was during an end of year kind of certificate event during high school, and yeah, I really enjoyed that experience. And yeah, I was kind of sad that I didn't really get the opportunity to take up acting during high school because they do have a limitation on what electives you could select. So yeah, I was a bit bummed out by it, but I was happy to get that experience.
Lovely.
Yep.
I haven't done any further formal study, but I'm always on YouTube. I've got a library of music theory books. Some are quite mechanical, every scale on the guitar neck. Some are like Slonimsky, and Slonimsky's Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Ideas, which is a classic, and books like that sort of higher music theory. I work through the books, usually just trying to keep myself motivated and find new stuff. So, yeah, again, I've never been formally trained, which I'd probably, given my time over, I'd probably try and do some formal training because it saves a lot of time. It took me probably 8 or 9 years to get to the level of a bachelor in 3, just because, as you said, things get in the way. Finding people who can explain things too, when you're in a field that when I started out, a lot of people were self-trained. And so you were told all kinds of nonsense about what minor scales were and what the relative minor was and how to substitute chords, and over time you learn, no, that's not right. So, yeah, if you're thinking about it, if you're listening, I would recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's to help really build a solid foundation of knowledge. If you have someone that is professionally trained musician to teach the theory and the practical side of it, like David said, to save you some time. I only did music in high school for maybe 2 or 3 years before kind of dropping it for other subjects. I did take up drama actually in high school and did do professional training in NIDA and at the Hub Studio, which helped me with how to understand my movement of my body, the use of my voice, the language, and all that kind of stuff that when you're on stage, it's really difficult to do everything at once. It's like a juggling act.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that really helped me when I went back into music to kind of understand how the feel of the bass, the instrument was on my body, how would I perform with a live audience. And funny enough, I actually find myself getting stage fright doing music again rather than acting, because I felt like I've had more experience with acting rather than the music side of things. So I'm still kind of getting back into it. Thankfully, I've got 2 solid band members to keep me grounded, so that's always great. So what was it like dipping your toes into the industry to perform for yourself?
A bit frightening at the time, and in fact for years I battled stage fright to the point where I nearly stopped altogether. There are people out there who heard me and said you should have stopped altogether. But the conflict between I absolutely have to do this and I absolutely don't want to do this is real, and it's a struggle. And ultimately, it worked out. But yeah, at the time, just trying to remember songs. Before we could discreetly hide things on iPads, you had to memorize everything. And because of the nature of the shows I was doing, I didn't retain a lot, because you might do the same song 5 times, 5 gigs in a row, but you'd be doing it in 5 different keys, 5 different tempos, 5 different arrangements.
Would you say it was more like improvised?
A lot was improvised.
Yeah.
Because it had to be. our guitarist has gone to hospital with, a drug overdose. Can you fill in? Yeah, sure. And, what key are we in?
Yeah.
Or, the bass player's stuck on a plane. Can you do the first set? Yeah, no worries,
Yeah.
And so a lot is improvised. Some was prepared, but again, as soon as the show was done, I'd be on to the next show.
Yeah.
It's definitely a skill set, though.
Oh, yeah.
I would so love to be able to do that, to just jump on and be like, oh, yeah, what key are we in?
Yeah,
Just,
exactly.
Yeah. And again, this is where formal education would have helped, because things like identifying chord progressions.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to have said, oh, that's an Andalusian chord progression, or it's a 2-5-1. Instead, I was just sort of doing it and following fingers and over time you learn, oh, that's that chord progression. Yep, I've done this a million times. But yeah, just having that theory that you can say, oh, okay, I know what that is straight away, after the first bar or so, rather than doing it and then realise, oh, that's what that is. That's the same as that song.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rakelle, for yourself?
Well, I believe I've kind of just started to dip my toes into the industry. It's a massive entity, as we all know.
Yes.
I guess I could just say I'm definitely excited and kind of anxious in a good way.
Yeah.
So you're always looking for opportunities to arise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the same. I think I'm really excited about producing work that's original, that's ours, that we all enjoy. And, it's a huge beast, the industry. And, you can't go in there expecting to be a superstar straight off the bat. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of hours, and there's also a lot of trust in the band members that you have to produce something that you're all happy with. And communication is key. If you don't have communication with your band, you don't really have anything at all, I think.
Sorry, what did you say?
But no, I think, dipping my toes into the industry now, it's fresh, it's exciting, but I'm making sure that I'm keeping realistic expectations of myself, but also encouraging my band members to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
Which leads into my next question, which is, did the experience on stage meet your expectations for the first time?
I could say my first experience probably would not be considered the greatest, because I was all in my head, just thinking about everything and being like, oh, I don't want to stuff it up, or you don't want to make a mistake, and you just get really anxious about the whole situation. But, after a period of time and kind of having more experience, you feel more comfortable. So, I would say, currently, there's kind of, nothing like the experience of performing on stage. Everything kind of becomes very focused and sharp. You pick up on everything. It's like all of your senses heighten. What did I just say? All of your senses heighten.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of enjoy the moment, and then you just take everything in, and it almost feels like a meditative state, in a sense. So yeah.
Nice. And David, I can see kind of looking back and just remembering that first performance you had.
We did it in Latin, I think.
Yeah.
There's a philosopher called Csikszentmihalyi who talks about the flow state, and that's really what you try to go for, where it's almost an out-of-body experience. And we reach flow state in many things. If you drive a car and you drive to work every day, you don't remember every single metre you drove on the road. You hop in the car and you get there, and the brain keeps you safe, hopefully, and you obey all the road rules, hopefully, and you get to work without having thought of every single thing. Same if you do housework, same if you do... when you're doing something like music or something creative and you're in the flow state, it's a really magical experience. To get back to my first experience on stage, I remember being a bit pleased with it. It was a band that I'd formed with a couple of friends, and we'd even written a couple of songs for it and did some very obscure covers that were never going to go anywhere in the types of gigs you get in Australia. If you're doing a cover band, make sure people have heard the songs. That's a tip. And it's a big mistake that young bands made. Oh, I'm going to do the B-side of the Screaming Heebies number 94 hit back in 1992 because it's a great song. And it is a great song. But if nobody's heard it, it's not up to you to sell it. So to get back to the question, I remember being pleased at the end of it, but at the beginning, and the show was to 50 friends, you know. So there was nothing really to worry about. But, yeah, we were petrified. And we'd even had choreographed moves because we were idiots. And we nearly didn't do them, and we did them, and they went down pretty well. And, yeah, it wasn't a good show. I've heard the tapes. It wasn't a good show, but it met our expectations of what a show should be, and was a stepping. Yeah, at the time, I think we thought it was good.
That is really lovely to hear, because I know that it can be so terrifying to like go on stage for the first time, and you want to make sure that you're well prepared, but some things could go wrong. But even then, when you have fun in the moment, it doesn't matter what happens. You're all there for each other. You're there to perform, and that's the main crux of it, right? I remember like when I performed in high school, I didn't really care because everyone was around my age. I knew most of the people in my cohort. It felt more relaxed. When I performed again live on stage at the Stag, I don't think that pub is there anymore. It was like a long time ago. And it was terrifying. Even though there was like barely anyone there, it was just like family and friends.
Yeah.
I just felt the stage lights like really beaming on us. I was wearing black, which absorbed the heat, and I was sweating, and I was holding my bass, and I knew the notes, and I could play them. I played them very softly, and they were like, "Is your bass working?" It's like, "Yeah, it's working." And I was like playing it very softly, and they were ramping up my bass like sound quality to the max volume, and they could barely hear me because I was playing so softly.
You're like, I don't want to be perceived.
No, I don't want to be looked at.
I'm one of the few guitarists who
Yeah.
they tell me to turn it up rather than turn it down.
Exactly. And I made the mistake of making eye contact with someone and holding that eye contact, and I'm like, oh. So that was not great, but, you know, it's practice, you know. You're never going to be 100% comfortable until, like, you're comfortable in yourself and just kind of, like, understanding you're in the moment, you're here to do performance, this is, you know, something you want to do, and not, like, let other people get to you. I think that's what I need to learn, and I'm still trying to get into the groove of things, but, yeah we'll get better eventually, I'm sure of it.
I often perform, particularly if I'm singing with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks, oh, it's the passion. It's not. It's I'm petrified to look out and see anyone and burst out laughing or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easiest performing with a light in your eyes, so you're like, I can't see a thing.
Yes.
You know?
It's like, that's what they say, you had stars in your eyes, darling.
Yeah.
It's mostly the light, but yes, thank you. So you guys definitely have some funny stories, either on stage or off stage, you can tell me all about. You're listening to Confessions with Cynthia. Come on, dish it out.
I mean, not sure if it's so funny. For me, it's funny looking back on it, but I haven't had an embarrassing and kind of mortifying experience at the time. So it was at a school talent show case during elementary school, primary school, as you call it here in Australia. But I prepared to perform and sing and dance to a song by Shakira called Eyes Like Yours. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, when it came time to start performing, I couldn't hear the music. So I missed the first line to start the song. So then I just signalled to the person controlling the music to start again and to turn the music up. But then I still couldn't hear the music. So I just started to perform with what I could hear. And I kept continuing to signal to that. I kept pointing at my ear, like, turn the music up. I can't hear anything at all.
Right.
And I ended up just getting to the end of the song with one more line to sing, but the music cut off.
No.
So the song had ended so abruptly without finishing, and it was just in the school assembly hall, and I was kind of mortified, and it was so awkward in that moment because some people clapped, most people didn't make a sound, and it was just like, I blew it. So, yeah, like looking back on it, like at the time I didn't know why I couldn't hear the music. Now I know it was because there were no speakers turning towards the stage. All of the speakers were turning outward, and I couldn't hear my voice. I couldn't hear the music, and I was kind of just working on the echo. So looking back on it, it's hilarious, but at the time it was so mortifying and a really embarrassing experience.
I feel for you. Gosh, David.
I've blanked out a lot of the embarrassing experiences. I guess the times where a singer will say, and the singer will be on a rhythm guitar and say, I'm in the key of G, and you start playing in the key of G. And then halfway through the song, you're thinking, why isn't this working? Mm-hmm. And there's no monitoring, of course. Yeah. And you realise they're playing out of G. The capo is on the 2nd fret, so I'm actually supposed to be in A.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is why it sounds pretty off.
Yeah.
You know. Again,
it happens a lot, though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Funny experiences. I was in a band called Kinderschmerzen, which was an industrial punk band. I like to think I was in the classic lineup, but everyone else probably doesn't think that. It had a lot of lineups, Kinderschmerzen. It was great fun. And we turned up to a pub in, I think, Alexandria. It wasn't I can't remember, Green Square maybe. And as we're setting up, 50 bikies show up, which is never a good thing because pubs don't like bands that attract bikies because they can get wild. But as it happened, it was I've forgotten their name, but they were the retired guys, so they were all dressed in leather. But the only real qualification was that you had to be, I think, over 55 rather than retired. But most of them were retired, and I was at the pub and the support band was on, and it was loud because of the type of gig it was, and I could hear this guy swearing his head off, and that, you know, these blanks had taken so much money and it was thousands of dollars, and that he was really angry. And I'm thinking, am I being a witness to a crime here? And I'm trying not to listen, and it turned out it was, he just cashed in his superannuation, and some of the fees were ones he weren't expecting. which was both relieving and pretty funny. Because he was all done up and he had the beard, and the beard was plaited, and the leather gear, but these so-and-sos in the ex-superannuation had taken these fees that he wasn't expecting, and it had cost him $10,000 or something.
That's reasonable to be cranky about.
No judgment on any behaviour.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
It was just,
fair
incongruous.
Yes. So I don't have any funny moments that I can recall. I do have memorable moments, and I think one of them was when I was playing in the high school band, and I was sharing the piano with one of my friends, and we were playing Clocks by Coldplay. And we were just in flow state, and it was silence, and you could just hear the piano going, and it was beautiful. And then we were singing it, and it was just lovely to be in that state. And I think people were just, it wasn't even for a performance, it was just for people coming into the auditorium. And I think people really enjoyed it. And, you know, there were like claps at the end, but I think that was something I was like, oh, this is really lovely. This is something I really enjoy, is to give people joy and have music that people want to listen to. And that's one of my favorite moments, and I'm sure that you guys had something similar happen to you as well.
Definitely. I mean, my most memorable moment would be experiencing a standing ovation. So this was actually after I did that performance of Defying Gravity. And it was unexpected but an amazing experience. I actually painted myself all green.
Wow.
So I got in costume basically for the performance, but I didn't. That was actually the first time trying to act while singing, so I wasn't actually expecting it to go so well. So to have that kind of response was a moment, basically.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love that for you, Rakelle. And there'll be many more to come. I am sure of that. And David.
Nice moments when you think you've played terribly and someone comes up and says, I really enjoyed that. Or I've had people video my fingers to, see what I was playing and how I was playing, which maybe I should be offended at that type of a thing, but I think it's nice that, because I don't think it's that great. It's good, but, or people come up and ask, when you did that, what were you doing? Or, or even I did a show some years back and the next day I was in McDonald's and the woman behind the counter was at the show and she said, oh, you're that guy who did that. Yeah, it was really great. So, these types of moments happen. And I get the other moments too. That was terrible, you're terrible. I had this, not often, but enough. And you just have to live, the good comes with the bad.
Yeah, and in saying the good comes with the bad, David, it actually leads into my next question was, what were some of the difficult moments that kind of helped you grow as both a person and as a musician? Rakelle, I'll start off with you.
There's a lot of kind of difficult experiences. I mean, in terms of growth as a person, I did unfortunately experience a bit of bullying, feeling a bit like a black sheep. So
no, you didn't. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Don't do that, ladies and gentlemen.
I guess it was a lot in kind of the mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of my issues kind of stem from myself kind of attacking my own person, myself as a person.
Yeah.
So I've kind of learnt to kind of become more self-aware of what I'm thinking or saying about myself. So that's something that I've kind of learnt and kind of struggled with, but I've definitely gotten a lot better than when I was much younger. In terms of performing, would be more just not worrying too much about what other people think of me. It's whether I was happy with what I did. So it's very much like being critical, but not overly critical to the point that I start knocking myself down.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
I mean, a lot of my struggles has been just from myself, basically. I'm my own biggest enemy. So I feel a lot of people can relate to that, where, most people, when you're performing, they want to enjoy a good performance. They're not thinking about all the little mistakes you did. Whereas a performer, like someone who's singing, someone who's playing, like a guitar or anything, they'll be thinking about, oh, I stuffed that up. Oh, no, I should do this. I should do that. So it's just a different experience. Every performer would think, oh, the people aren't going to enjoy it. But they're kind of preemptively thinking in a negative way rather than, oh, they just want to enjoy the show. They probably didn't notice it,
Exactly, yeah. No, I feel like that as well sometimes. And David, do you also resonate with what Rakelle was saying?
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in yourself. Once the mistake has happened, it's gone. That's the beauty of live performance. And some of my favourite musicians moved away from recording and went into live performance because of that living in the moment. Alan Holdsworth, the jazz guitarist, for example. I think you can be like Duke Ellington, who just let his musicians played that what they did, and sometimes there was mistakes, and sometimes there was, things that sort of fade off. But then Duke Ellington's one of the great jazz performers with many iconic performances because he let people be themselves. You then have, say, James Brown, who would fine you if you missed a step or played the wrong chord, and so the pressure was always on. But again, iconic live performances and iconic recordings from both men too.
Definitely.
So you can beat yourself up, or you can think, okay, I'll leave that back in the rehearsal room and fix it up and for the next time. Or you can obsess about it and you never get past it. And, it took me years, I think, to just say, yep, leave that in the rehearsal room. It's either not ready or I tried it and it didn't work. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
It's the art of moving on. You just let it go in the moment rather than letting it eat you up alive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think I'm kind of getting around to that as well. Like, I've done music for a while, but I feel like I'm still fresh in the whole aspect of it because I'm revisiting that part of my life. And I'm still kind of getting over that imposter syndrome. I'm a writer. I love writing music. I love writing lyrics. I love writing stories. And I think, maybe I shouldn't dive into music, but why not? There's different facets of people, different interests that people have. You can't have that one mindset that I have to be one thing. It's not, I am just going to be this person. I don't have any other interests or hobbies, and people, wouldn't believe that I did, X, Y, and Z. And that's just not true. So having that understanding and kind of educating myself better with reading music, understanding the history of music, the bass guitar, talking to, myself, saying that I'm good enough to be here, I'm allowed to be here, I'm in a safe space, and also talking to my band members every week, Rakelle and David, about how we're progressing with our music styles, what have we been up to. That really grounds me, and I think that's really important when going on that journey, and remembering you have that support system, and just not having those negative thoughts kind of eat you away.
Yeah, definitely. You always just prepare for the worst, but you can't control everything.
Yeah.
So
And you're never going to kill anybody by playing a wrong note or even playing in the wrong key.
Yeah.
No one's going to get sick. No one's going to lose their livelihood. It might affect yours for a week or so. But music's a very constructive and positive thing. Even when it's motor ballads and songs about unpleasant things, it's still a constructive and positive creative force.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, you're expressing yourself, so
Yeah. And
even if it's a negative thing.
Yeah, and working through those emotions, and it's, you can't really we play music, we don't work music, and I think that verb is very important. That we play the piano, we play the bass, we sing, and singing isn't supposed to be hard work. I'm sure, say, Lady Gaga would argue that singing is very hard work, or Bono or someone like that, but they only have to do it for a couple of hours a night. And
No. I disagree.
Everything is work,
Yeah.
but we still do it from an element of joy,
Yeah.
I think.
Definitely.
Even if the song isn't joyful. And I think that's what separates music from a lot of the other arts. Although you probably get all the visual artists coming in saying, no, we do it from joy too, and that's fine as well. But music doesn't have any sense except itself too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with your journey as artists, thinking from where you started to now, how did you find that whole way, working through becoming and starting off as a musician, to learning about the processes of performing, to now finally kind of I really want to put myself out there and try my luck with having professionally recorded music to be put out there in the mainstream. How is that going for you mentally, and your thought process in that?
I think there's a sense in which it'll never be good enough. And I think the second it is good enough, that's game over too. And that's not to say, oh, you put yourself down, oh, this is terrible, I never want to hear it, and I don't want to share it with other people. But there's always the, I could have been a bit more sophisticated or a bit less sophisticated, or I could have done this here or there. And you say, okay, so the next time I'll do that. And that's your progress.
It's all about that constant growth. Like, just like what David said, you realise, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. So then you work towards it. Like, you're never going to be at a point where you're like, I know everything. So you're constantly picking up new things, trying new styles, listening to new music, talking to new people. So there's always something new to pick up. And once you say that you've kind of picked up everything, you've kind of stunted your own growth. So, yeah, I mean, I always find, there's always something new. Like, you never reach an end to it. It's a never-ending story.
Absolutely. I think so too. And it can be, like, as David said, like a double-edged sword sometimes, where it's like, it's never good enough, or like, if it peaks, you're like, oh, I'm done. But
I'll call them back, it's all right.
But even so, like, we have those thoughts and feelings with personal music that we write ourselves. It's about balance. So taking breaks as well is very important from writing music, creating music, and kind of talking about it to other people that are like-minded, especially if you're in a band, to kind of understand, like, where are we headed as a band together, and have a cohesive way to play that we're not going to, at the end of the day, really dislike playing together, or, play the same songs over and over again, because that can be heavy. And in saying that, how do you kind of curb those negative thoughts when it comes to your mind, either when you're playing or kind of at home thinking about what's next?
I think if you're a writer, and I do a bit of writing, this will sound like I'm contradicting you, but I'm not. I think you should write every day, in a sense. Take breaks from time to time, I think is very important. But I think what a lot of writers fall into the trap of, and Eminem springs to mind, I think, they write when they're in a particular mood. And then all of those issues get resolved, which is a great thing, but then they don't know how to write. And if you look at the songwriters who get decades and decades of hits, it's very rarely because they've written the same song over and over and over and over again. It's one day they wake up and they feel happy, so they write a happy song. Next day they wake up and they feel a bit Blur, so they wrote a bit of a Blur song. Not Blur the band necessarily.
Yeah. Great band though.
No. Another day they might wake up and they've had really sad news.
Yeah.
And so they write about that.
And sometimes they don't feel like doing anything, so they write a song about that.
And sometimes you're just not motivated, so you write a song anyway.
Yeah.
And you don't have to write the whole song. Just sitting down and editing something you've done, or and just forcing through. And I think talent is overrated in a sense, in that you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't use it, you will lose it. And you can be extremely talented, but your early stuff will still be rubbish compared to the stuff you're going to write. Probably the greatest living songwriter, certainly one of them, Paul McCartney. If you look at his early stuff, as good as it is, he gets better.
He gets better.
Better. He doesn't peak with Hey Jude, for example. A lot of people would have said, "Yep, I'm done. I can't top that." And McCartney goes on and does Maybe I'm Amazed, Band on the Run. coming up, all these brilliant songs. Same with Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan's a bit different in that he explodes and then pulls back. But his songs maintain a standard and get better in different ways.
Absolutely.
You know, he'll never write another Blowin' in the Wind or Highway 61 Revisited or anything like that. But he said he forgot how to write and had to relearn. But the stuff he does now there's still a craft to it.
Exactly.
There's still, you know, and that's the difference. When you write every day, you improve the craft of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like, it's so interesting to see people grow rather than just kind of stay in their comfort zone. And I recently saw Paul McCartney live, and he was phenomenal. And you can tell that he loved every bit of music, every different era that he was in, from the Beatles to then being an independent artist. And his band, just, you know, at the age that he is, I want to be as cool as him when I'm that age. And there is still that love for music. And it just goes to show there's different facets of everybody. You know, we're not just a happy person all the time.
Yeah, of course not.
All the emotions of the rainbow. And I'm sure, Rakelle, you agree with me in that sense.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and McCartney's happy songs are, you know, and again, and this is, I've just said talent's overrated, but of course McCartney is one of the 20 people in the world who could be given a random list of words and make a great song out of it and write a song that would, if anyone else had written it, would set them up for life, and they'd be touring it for the rest of their lives, and McCartney, it's a minor B-side, you know.
But it was all because of the practice.
It's all because of the practice.
And honing in on the craft. Yeah, so just keep going at it.
Yeah.
And then with this, what is, like, a mantra or practice that helps you get into the zone before performance? Rakelle?
I actually meditate, and then I do some scale kind of drills and things like that. And then I pretty much just kind of focus on what I'm trying to perform and kind of pick up those emotions to kind of bring a bit more justice to the song. So, yeah, that's definitely a bit more of what I would do. David?
My process is, oh God, is that the time I better go? Not really. I probably don't meditate formally, but I think there is an element of just trying to get ready.
Yeah, it's just getting in the zone. It's I wouldn't say fully like a meditative state, but more just preparing mentally. When
I'm at the time of recording, I'm hosting an open mic, so I've got no idea what's going to happen over the next 3 hours and who's going to play and what they're going to play, and so I can't sort of think, oh, we'll do this. I can guess sometimes, oh, this guy's here, so we'll probably do that song. So, and in a lot of the gigs I've had, that sort of setting down to focus on what we're going to play, when often I haven't had any idea of what's going to play.
Yeah, you get a feel for the vibe. You're like, oh, I think this is what you're going to do.
Yeah. And sometimes you're wrong. And it's more, I think, I try and focus on the instrument.
Yeah.
And how the instrument works, and just trying to connect my fingers to, and hence my head and my emotions to what the instrument's going to do. And yet trying to find the elusive flow.
Yeah.
And when it happens and you're looking down on yourself and you're playing really well, it's fantastic.
It is.
Sometimes it doesn't happen.
You definitely get that excitement and the adrenaline before performing as well. So you start, doing your stretches and you start jumping around and you're like, you get that. You just start feeling everything a bit everything feels a bit quicker.
Yeah, I get that too. Yeah, I definitely do my breathing like to just calm me down because I need to slow down my heart rate because I feel like if my heart is racing, I just like scatterbrain. So I do my breathing exercises. I also practice my scales, my bass, just to make sure it's kind of like la 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 on my bass. So I know what my notes are. I know exactly where I need to be, which key I need to be
Check
in.
your tuning. You're like,
Yeah,
what note am I starting on again?
Exactly, exactly. It's just those little things, just to making sure that I'm prepared as best as possible with my band to then perform.
Yeah.
And in saying this, what is your favorite thing about being a musician?
Just being in the moment. Like when you're performing to an audience, you feel how they're feeling as well. It's I don't know how to kind of express it, but you feel like a community in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you kind of pick up on the energy of the audience, and it's a bit cyclical. So you give your energy to the audience, and they return energy to you.
Yeah.
And it's just that feeling of being together in a moment, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, I love that. And David?
Other musicians, mostly.
Definitely.
And it's absolutely true. The communication, both the musical communication and the just having fun before and after a show.
The hidden signals on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
85% of the people I've met in music have been wonderful people. And when I was a kid and visiting my uncle and his band members had come around and the way they just interacted, and it's like there's a different
language between musicians on stage when they're performing.
Yeah, but even off stage
Yeah.
too. It's English and you know all the words, but it's something different that, and I've seen it with truck drivers too. There's the way truck drivers and bus drivers talk to each other.
They have their own...
almost a dialect, except you can understand it, but there's bits that you miss.
Yeah.
Academics have it. Office people have it. And some are more interesting to me than others. But yeah, that the way that musicians interact both on stage and off stage is one of the things I really like.
Beautiful. It's like the nuances,
Yes.
you know, with everyone. And I definitely resonate with what both of you were saying, and I'd also have to say that I feel that my instrument, my bass, is like an extension of me as well. So when I'm expressing myself, I don't feel any judgment or fear when I'm playing my bass. It just flows, and it just sounds so good to have my lyrics and the bass going together. And it's like, yes, this is exactly how I want to express myself. And that's what I love about playing music. And that being said, what piece of advice would you give to someone that is looking to start their journey of becoming a musician today? David?
Unless you have to do it, don't do it. If you have a plan B, that is what will happen. I think too many people think that it's easy and it's not. It's extremely hard. It's not something that, for all the great times on stage, like think about it, you perform, if you're lucky, 3 hours. Might take you an hour and a half to get there and back, plus packing up, plus setting up, packing up, and then you mightn't get paid for a month. And then you're not getting paid a livable wage, etc. You've got to do many, many gigs to get a livable wage. And your chances of getting known is hard, but the payoff is worth it. Yeah. When they talk about paying your dues, they mean it. But I think a lot of people don't quite understand what paying the dues is. So if you, I mean, it may be that you do it part-time, that you do it as a weekend thing, that you do it as a hobby, as an interest, as a supplemental income. That's perfectly fine. But don't go in thinking that it'll be easy, and don't go in thinking that every day will be great, because you will have probably more harder days than great days. But the great days are truly great days. So, yeah.
Nice.
I've talked a lot of people out of doing teaching degrees and accounting degrees because they didn't really want to do that. They thought, I'll be able to do music. No, you'll get stuck in that job.
Yeah.
If you want to be a teacher, I will sign every bit of paper I can to get you in. Or if you want to be an accountant, or if you want to be a physiotherapist or what have you. But if you are doing that only because it's a backup for your music and you really want to do the music, fail at the music first. Make sure that you are going to fail at it before you get stuck in a job and wonder. I think, leave no room for regret is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of hard work. I would say keep going, face your struggles head on, and you'll find that you'll grow and learn so much along the way. Have fun with it in the process. Have a critical but positive mindset in your growth. Communicate with other musicians, build a network, build a community of people who can help you and you can help them along the way. And don't forget where you started. Keep that with you and stay down to earth and grounded in your purpose.
And for me, I would say, if you love it and it's important to you, make time for it and just do it. Keep going at it. You know, sing in the shower, doesn't matter, 5-10 minutes, practice your scales.
Yeah.
Carve out time in your busy schedule to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Even like 15 minutes a day
Yeah.
is more than most other people are doing.
Exactly. And
So-
that goes with like everything.
15 hours a day is what?
15 minutes.
15 hours a day.
Gosh.
I'm just getting warmed up.
15 minutes, you'll be a legend.
15 minutes a day is what? 7 15s is 75. So it's about an hour and a half, bit under an hour and a half, which, is plenty, particularly when you're starting out.
Yeah. And that's reasonable enough. And it's just like, don't put that much pressure on yourself, really.
Yeah.
You enjoy it. Keep that joy, because once you lose it, it could be gone forever, and you don't want that. And music is so beautiful, and it's something that everyone loves.
Work on it, work hard, but don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, I was going to say, make sure you look after yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look after your health,
And look after each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's very well said, and thank you again for joining us today and sharing part of your story with us. If you'd like to find out more about the band, Sin and Grace, you can follow us on our Instagram at Sin and Grace Music. The link will be available in the description. This wraps up our episode, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.